We've still got a long way to go until DICE officially releases classes for Battlefield 2042, but thanks to a portal creator by the name of ThePeteBull, we can try these changes early. Please note that all the footage that you're seeing from Manifest is recorded on their server, which is in Australia, so I was at 200 ping the entire time. Any other footage is from my own testing, from my own server, so it will have no ping issues at all. But if you see that ping indicator in the top left, that's why the footage looks kind of choppy. It's no fault of his, it's just the ping issue. Through the experience that they've created, which has its code on screen now for you to try out, you can test out the gadget restrictions that DICE have planned and try out all the portal weapons in All Out Warfare. That's right, they've brought every single one to the main game. The selection process for these is a little complicated, and we'll get into that in a second, but the fact that this is possible at all is an amazing feat, so hats off to this creator for being able to do this at all. Here's a screenshot of some of the code that goes into this. You can just see the amount of effort and work and passion put into this project in such a short time since the last update too. It's nuts. Now the way that you select gadgets is the same as usual, but you'll have this text at the top of the screen outlining which class can select which gadget, and each specialist has been assigned a class based on DICE's model that they've shown off. If you try and spawn in with a gadget that isn't assigned to the class that you've picked, it simply won't let you spawn, so that's how the gadget restrictions have been put into place. Once you do spawn, things become a little bit more complicated as the weapon selection system seems tricky at first. If you want to pick a 2042 weapon, that's great, you can do that as normal, but once you spawn in, you're able to sift through all the portal weapons and choose one you like. First, you've got to select the weapon class that you want, and to do this, you aimed in for a second, and it'll switch your weapon class between assault rifle, LMG, SMG, sniper, etc. And once you've selected the weapon class that you want, you can select the individual weapon you want by switching to your secondary, which will cycle through the choices that encompass all of the Portal games. Once you've found the one you want, you can jump and that'll lock in your choice. From here the prompts go away and you can play as normal. If you miss the weapon you want while you're selecting it, you can backtrack by going prone, but once you jump, you're locked into your choice, so keep that in mind. The plus system is available for all these weapons based on what you've attached in your Portal menus, so all of that is there, they function as normal weapons. Now yeah, you have to go through this process every single time you spawn to select a Portal weapon if you want to play with one, but the fact that this is technically possible at all is a miracle in itself, and the fact that ThePeteBull has been able to do this in such a short time since Season 2 launched is another miracle too. You might also notice from this footage that the AI running around here aren't the normal AI squad mates. They're specialists. I have no idea how any of this was accomplished right now, so I went into their DMs to interview them about the making of this mode and everything that went into it, and the first question that I asked was about the AI being assigned a specialist. So they got back to me with this. So basically I set up a variable for the AI player when they deploy, and that variable is a random number between 0 and 12 since there are 11 specialists available. Depending on what number they got, they set player soldier to a particular specialist. For example, if the number is 1, they set the soldier to be Irish, and then replaced all the AI player's inventory to the appropriate gadget and throwable to that specialist. So it's not just like a fancy skin that you see on them, they will be assigned the gadgets for that class based on the specialist that is randomly given to them. It is an incredible amount of work that's been put into this little system, but it's not the only thing I asked about. My second question was how we managed to implement the Portal weapons, and this one is a lot more complex, so bear with me here as I quote him. Basically, to start with, he has 5 subroutines each, full of a different class of weapons that they replace the player's inventory with. Now he controls the flow of the actions replacing the inventory by using wait until blocks. So in the beginning, it waits for you to switch to your secondary. Then it switches your inventory to the first weapon in the first subroutine and simultaneously sets a variable for you that you have that weapon. Now it's also waiting for you to ADS, prone or jump, and when you ADS, it aborts that subroutine and continues the flow of actions in the rule block that initiate that subroutine. The next action being the next subroutine, so that from ARs to SMGs for example, and so that goes. Now when you jump, it also aborts that subroutine but breaks the looping block in the rule, exiting the entire process, which is why your selections get locked off when you jump. This allows you to properly switch to your secondary too. And finally, with you being prone, the variable that was being set when you were cycling weapons is cross-checked in another subroutine full of all the guns, so if you last selected the XM8, your variable will be set as XM8. They have a condition in that subroutine for that instance, which will then equip you with the weapon you were previously holding, in this case the XM8. They go on to say that it wasn't extremely difficult, to be honest, it was just very, very tedious. And on top, he accidentally deleted it once, so he's made the mode twice. This is the amount of dedication being put into this. And it's really, really clear to see from the screenshots and everything that he said that to someone like me who's never coded before, it's really complicated. The amount of code that I see put into this mode, it's out of this world. And to recreate something that is about to come to the game in a couple months' time, but on your own in a limited portal editor, it's a crazy amount of dedication. So give this mode a try out if you see it, or maybe host it yourself. The final question that I asked them was what they thought of the class system now that they've tried it. His thoughts so far were that he thinks anti-air capabilities are probably the weakest aspect and potentially problematic. I agree with this because the way that gadgets are limited, say if you run Ryle, you now can't run AA, which kind of limits his specialist ability and makes him kind of redundant because right now he's a really good anti-air specialist with his hack and AA abilities, but that'll be gone in the gadget restrictions. That said, and this goes for me too, we haven't had that much luck getting a full server of human people, so any opinions that we formed we have to take with a grain of salt because the AI don't model how normal players would play. So in the future, it's wise to revisit this if somebody manages to fill up a full server. Anyway, there you have it. You can play with classes in the way that DICE will intend in the future, albeit in a very roundabout way through Portal. And once again, here's the experience code on screen now. Go try it out if you haven't already, because there's a lot of work gone into this, and even though it isn't the most seamless thing in the world, it gives you a good indication to what the gadget restrictions will be like once we get to that stage. Anyway, thank you for choosing me as your source of Battlefield content and news, and I hope to see you again.